speaker. I have the pleasure to welcome Professor Martina Glomb from Studiengang Modedesign, Hochschule, Hannover, from Germany. And the title of her speech will be Use Less Slow Fashion Against Waste and Ugly Clothes. Please welcome Martina.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. Even though I'm not freezing, I caught a cold, so I hope you can all hear and understand me. Thank you so much, Jack, for this, oh, he's gone, brilliant speech. Thank you. And I'm very happy that you've been first, because I can now put my applied research into the right field. Thank you so much. Well, there's still some movement here. I'm a fashion designer, and I love fashion. It's very difficult to say that nowadays, because fashion seems to be the enemy of sustainability, especially fast fashion. So I'm here today to show you some of our slow fashion strategies which can alter the world, or like I learned before, even small thing can alter the world a little bit. But first of all, I would like to get you into a bit of a physical action, because I come from an applied university, and what we do is real work. Last week we were doing a fashion show for the Polish artist Ewa Koczkakowa, and she said that an artist is like an octopus. An artist has to be in all places, has to understand everything and entangle with loads of things. And she said the octopus has its brain not fixed into one place, but it has the same amount of brain in every hand and even where the heart is. So that's how we look at fashion. We don't work only with our brain, we work intuitive, and we work with our fingers, our hands, and our heart. And this is something I would like to show you, that we can use fashion as symbols and illustrations for strategies. However, first, I want to get into action with you, and probably those of you who go to conferences a lot know this game already. It's called Pumping Fist. You know Pumping Fist? No. Okay, it goes like this. Come all in. I will ask you a question, and then if you agree with my question, or if you say, yes, I think that's right, we want to do that, you make the pumping fist movement. If you're not sure, yeah, maybe you just lift your hand a bit, and if you don't agree, or if you have nothing to say to this, you just don't do anything. So first of all, are you interested in sustainable development? The whole room is here, you see, and you can alternate hands, so because you sit quiet for the next half an hour, so you might as well alternate hand. Are you also interested in sustainable fashion? Yeah, everyone, yes, yeah, most of you. The clothes you're wearing today, do you know exactly where they're from and who made them? Well, okay, 10, 15 people. The attitude-behavior gap. This is a good example how even people from a different field can be active in research. So, last question, and that's the most important today. Do you know where the clothes you're wearing today will be in 10 years from now? Okay, but you see what I'm getting at. No? The behavior of us as consumers is a bit different than what we think we are. We think we're sustainable people, responsible people, but we have to work a bit on this. Use less slow fashion against waste and ugly clothes for the freezing week. I show you some real fashion examples, and hopefully it fits into the picture you have heard before from Jack. I am a fashion designer and I'm trained as a couture designer. And from the very beginning, being brought up as the daughter of a tailor who worked for a circus, I was brought up to sit on the cutting table and enjoy the smell of wool and the iron and do some little stitching. So I learned everything what I know in fashion from beginning on, from childhood on. When I finished my 6 years of couture tailoring, I studied fashion design and I was put a bit behind. I didn't like the way fashion education was treating me, but we come back to that later on. Then I spent 12 years with Vivienne Westwood, and when I started working for her, we were 5 people trying to change the fashion system a little bit. And when I left, we were about 200 people on the London base only. So I think I left a little mark, and I called a collection my own, which is called Glomb. Some people say it contains my name, but well, I would like to think it would be like this. However, we are still friends, and a lot of the things I'm talking about are based in the history of Vivienne Westwood, and they're also based on experiences I had as a tailor. This is an image I don't need to talk to you about at all, because you all know that. We have the melting ice, we have freezing week here and there's no snow. We have colorful rivers in India, we have Rana Plaza, all the stuff, we hear so much of it that it's even too much. We don't want any more information. I don't know if you have Primark here in Finland? No. Lucky you. And still, we look at our wardrobe and say, oh, I don't know what to wear today. You know this feeling? Pumping fist, you know the exercise? Yeah. I have to quote on a colleague of mine from Reutlingen, another university in South Germany. He says, we don't need to speak about recycling at all. We don't need to recycle anything at the moment. If we just look at our wardrobes, 60% in the German wardrobe is unworn clothes, and they go straight to the bin or to waste. And if we wear them all, we can wear them the next 20 years, and we have time enough to find brilliant solution for recycling consumer waste or recycling worn clothes. So that gave me, as a fashion designer teaching at the University of Applied Science and Arts in Hannover, another outlook on fashion design. Because we used to be these designers who were like, oh wow, I want 8 meters of blue silk and I make a dress. It's a fantastic dress. I'm such a brilliant individual. I'm just a fashion designer now. I try to solve problems. And I'm looking at the end before I look at the beginning. I'm looking at all this textile waste, which is getting more and more, and we are drowning in it. So when you want to be a fashion designer, you cannot only look at this little piece of cake of the design process, you have to look also what is happening at the end. This is a picture I made with a friend when we were visiting a place in Germany where at the moment all the unwanted clothes from Europe land before they be shipped to India, some of them, Africa. And this is the biggest European recycling company. And they told us that still 60% of the clothes are just burned. They have a problem. It's getting more and more on this end, and the quality is getting worse and worse. Recycling processes are very difficult because, as you know, monofiber articles are still stitched with a polyester yarn. If you have a wool jumper, it's stitched with polyester yarn, so what do? It takes time and effort to pull it apart. When I was there, a big container came from Iceland containing about a couple of hundreds hand-knitted wool jumpers. And I was like, oh, lovely, they're really trendy, you know, this round-knitted, cable-knit, Icelandic jumper, pure wool, fantastic. What are you making of it? Yeah, we're trying to sell it to VW for the filling for car doors, but probably it's just such a small amount, like one container. We burn it. So it probably took load of old ladies and men to knit these jumpers, pure wool, the sheep, the growth, the feeding, blah, 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 blah. And what happens here in Bremerhaven, North Germany, it's just burned. So what we are doing as fashion designers, we're trying to slow down. We cannot continue like this, so what we're doing is concentrate our research strategies on slow fashion and sustainability. So first of all, I'm trying to give you a little bit of an outlook what we're doing. Our center is called Useless Center of Sustainable Design Strategies, and useless, of course, is what we're called. Everything is branded in our department with useless, and this is supposed to mean that we are trying to encourage people to slow down and use a bit less resources, but at the same time it also tells us that you have to critically ask, does it really make sense what you're doing? As we heard before, the capitalistic system does not slow down. You need your growth to continue, and so we are always questioning, if we screw on little screws to make the world better, does it really make a difference? And the Useless Center at the moment is working on a couple of projects, and we've started a couple of years ago, I think 6-7 years ago, as the first German governmental funded project for slow fashion in terms of textiles. And it was called INAB. I spare you the German name, Technical and Economic Design Innovations, Challenging Sustainable Possibilities for the Mass Market of Fashion and Textile Products. I'm really proud of this, not because it's good to have a funding like this, but it was necessary in Germany to have a governmental recognition of our research, because we are still these fashion designers, yeah, we like funny clothes and odd things, but we also use fashion as a design tool, as a strategic tool for development, for more sustainability. As an example, all the things I'll be showing you in the next 15 minutes are part of an exhibition which is touring the whole Germany, and it shows you fashion in a different way. It doesn't show you fashion as the result, it just shows you fashion to illustrate a certain process. So when you come to Germany, you might pick up on this exhibition, which is the result of our research, year-long research. We also have funding by the German ministry to work on sustainable strategies, to make them work for a university curricula. It is very important that we, therefore, not stick to fashion on its own and cross the borders to all design study areas and also to other faculties like we're doing here. I think we have here a good mixture of what we are doing in Hannover as well, trying to have vertical and horizontal border-free exchange. Polycorporate, just one example, because if you just make a brilliant outfit and it's also sustainability, it still doesn't change anything. So what we are doing in the project Polycorporate is we work for the Ministry of Lower Saxony, and we change the clothes, the uniforms, corporate fashion of the police. They don't see that, and they don't know that. So we make them more sustainable without them knowing. So what we're trying to do, because we have an access with our strategies to the mass market, we can calculate their waste, we can calculate their use, and we can bring in design innovation which still look the same as before, but make their shirt, for example, completely different, because it doesn't waste so much fabric, it's from better material, and so on. So we try to be fashion designers who change textile products, but not from the look of it necessarily, but from the inside. So we're like the spy in the house of fashion. Okay then, if you come to Germany, all the strategies you can see from March on in the Klima Arena Sinsheim, which is a new opened museum in southern Germany, but this is just one of the stations. It will move to Textilwerk Bocholt, to certain stations in Germany, and a very, very big museum in Hannover. And the reason I'm showing this here is you can also, youth designers, everyone who wants, can be part of it, because the exhibition is changing while it walks around. So we have stations in the exhibition which are changing when they go to a different place. When we go to Bocholt, which is a traditional textile production place, of course, we keep on local people, inviting them, and work on exhibition pieces with them. But are designers so important? McAllen and B say 80% of a product's sustainability is generated through the design process. And if that's true, we do have an important role. And our point is not to be good in fashion. Our point is also to look at everything, at the whole circle. And if fashion designers do that, I believe they can do something. At the moment, we're facing a period of time where nobody wants to study fashion anymore because it's somehow dangerous. Fast fashion is really bad, I don't know, so I better not do anything. We encourage you to continue your studies and make a positive impact on the society. And then again, we are an applied university. All we do is visible. Everything we do looks good. We don't need to speak long, we look good. And this shows that you can, an applied university can have research through design, not about design. First of all, when we started working 10 years ago, everybody was talking about sustainability, but not as much as they do nowadays. So we had to define sustainability for us. We are applied fashion designers. What does sustainability mean for us? And we came across that it has to be sustainability for production and also for consumption. And of course, as you've seen the pictures, Rana Plaza and so on, we have to avoid harmful effects for employees in production and distribution, and harmful effects for users. We have to avoid dangerous effects for the environment. We have to keep the resources, the use of resources low, eventually circular at one stage, and avoid negative social consequences, and at the same time promote and improve positive developments. So don't give up working in the fashion industry. And of course, clothes are between nature and the culture. They're between people. Sustainable consumption, we are all designers maybe and consumers at the same time. So we have to raise consciousness, awareness for high quality, environment friendly and socially acceptable clothes. For me, slow fashion means awareness of high quality is probably the most effective thing we can do, because if a piece of textile is long, it lives long, and it's longer in the life cycle, the product life cycle of a piece of textile is elongated, then it's the best we can have. So that means if we from the beginning, from the first design decision, pay attention to the quality and know about quality, and like the octopus, feel it and know about it. So you have to be very, very into depth also of technological developments, but you have to, at the same time, got to have a feeling for quality. And this is what is missing nowadays in education, in fashion education, and it starts already in schools, that people don't know how wool tastes, how wool feels, and what to do with it. So our aim is to prolong the life cycle and the length of the use of clothes and of all textile materials. And this is how, when I studied fashion design, designers looked at the textile chain. It was like a linear thing going from raw materials through textile fabrics and refinements. The only access to fashion design I had was on prototyping and confection, what I said to you early on. The designer used to look only at the piece of cloth and what dress to make of it, and they didn't even care what became of the dress later on. Distribution and sale was not interesting for designers. Designers wanted to be individuals which were glamorous and artistic. The user came only into the game at the point of sale, and of course, use, care, and disposal. The user bought the clothes and then chucked them away. So now we're thinking at the product life cycle in a different way, and we put the designer in the center of it, not because we think we're the best, like we used to, but because we need to have knowledge about all the stations we're showing here. So if the designer has an impact on the product, the designer has to be very careful and research which materials to choose. The raw material, where it's been grown, how much water was used to grow the material, and so on. Then it goes through fiber production, the textile finishing, the manufacturing, and the material, of course, has an impact on the manufacturing, and a designer has to know that. There's no point to design something if you don't know your processes and your materials. And then, of course, designer also have an impact on the distribution and retail. For example, we heard about the color for the boats earlier on. Maybe the color was not the right color. Maybe the color didn't promote the color in the right way. So designers got to have an impact also how their merchandising look like and how the product look like, that the product tells a history and a bit of a culture and a heritage. And the product has to put consumer and designer in touch, and producers at the same time. So therefore, it's not really a circle, it's more like a cosmos, it's all floating around. When it comes to wear and care, also designers can have a big impact on the clients and the customers, because you can teach them how to care about clothes. In matter of fact, the highest use of energy of a textile product is not used for the production and the end of life. It's used for washing and caring. So approximately 80% of energy used is for washing. So if you know that as a designer, there's certain fabrics you use for certain circumstances. For example, wool is a perfect slow fashion material because you don't have to wash it really. You just hang it outside and like when it's raining and it's wet air and a bit cold. You can even put it in a freezer and it gets clean. So there is a way out there, the end of life. This is like the normal textile chain when you just throw it out, when you don't use it anymore. But we as designers need to learn to use used clothes as material. There's no other way than to also look at everything which is being worn as material for us as designers. That can be, of course, a recycled fiber, but also it could be second-hand, used clothes for the moment, because we are not yet in a fully circular production, as we know. Recycling, upcycling has a lot of downsides. It's very difficult and you need a lot of resources. So therefore, at this period of time, I think fashion designers need to work with used clothes and second-hand as material. Yeah, this page shows you a few of the strategies you can apply at certain points of the circles, and I think it's an important educational tool which I will use in my group this afternoon as well. So there are certain strategies, but you know where they are and where you can apply them. For example, you have here zero waste cutting, which I go into detail of. You have upcycling, mass customization, quite a lot of techniques at the manufacturing stage. You have your business models, renting clothes, sharing clothes, leasing, and so on. And then, of course, you have a very important area here where you have the client, the customer, the user. The user who hopefully will, in a couple of years, have an essential wardrobe with clothes which are all used and they're steadily cleaned and cared for and they're always in function. And therefore it's important to have multifunctional clothes or unisex or multiple size clothes. And then of course the discipline, the king's discipline, the queen's discipline, cradle to cradle. As a designer staying in the center of all this, you have to always think if your product can be circular, if it can be re-enter the product life cycle. Just an example of students working with tents. They went to festivals and collected tents from festivals, especially some of these alternative people who live maybe vegan and eco-friendly. They go to festivals and you have hundreds and thousands of unused tents and anoraks and windbreakers and stuff lying around. So here, for example, a student made evening clothes from found objects. This is just to illustrate that you've got to look at your material in a different way. If you want to design something, if you want to prototype something, try to incorporate found objects. Of course, this is a bit difficult because you probably have one of a kind. But I'll show you also how it can be important to work together with producers to have maybe hundreds or series or more of the thing you can work with. When you do this, you have to consider all steps during the whole process. And of course, you have to know exactly where your tent is from. This is a bit of the problem you have at the moment, because when you use second-hand or used clothes, you don't really know what you're dealing with. But in the future, you probably will have in a sorting place, like the picture I showed you before, you will probably have digital tagged fibers, so you can know what you're looking for. The sorting place we work with, we can give them challenges and say we need, for example, 100 blue pure wool jumpers, and it takes 2 weeks, and we get them, and then we can do collections with them. Wardrobe essentials, we spoke about it already. We have to work together with consumers to change their attitude, because a change of the system is only possible if everyone is having the same attitude. So we have, as fashion designers, we go and talk to customers and clients and try to better their consumer behavior and look into their wardrobes. Zero waste is, of course, a technique which is used quite a bit recently, and about 5 years ago in the German fashion fair, in the trade fair, Neonit, you could see quite a few designers using it. Now you see very little, because you have a lot of problems with zero waste, because if you're not from the fashion business, zero waste is a technique to produce clothes without leaving any waste, textile waste. So you have to, it's like cake making, biscuit making. Yeah? When you have your shape and you have some left over, you put it all together, roll it out again and make new cakes. So you don't want anything left over on the side. And from the first beginnings, where zero-waste fashion designers could recognize each other because they had really shapeless, baggy clothes. It's been a long time since then, and we now are able to develop zero-waste patterns like you see here, where even a set-in sleeve can be perfectly fitted in. That, of course, takes a very long design process, and this is the downside of it. The development of the product takes very, very long. In the end, you have a good product, which is not using a lot of fabric, but the development takes quite long, and the weaving has always a different width. So there again, you have to work with the production companies to have maybe to adjust your patterns to the weave. This coat here is a perfectly set-in sleeve. We worked about 2 years on it, and it fits 3 sizes. So this should be the ideal coat for quite a few people. Downsides of zero waste. You've got to know who's producing your clothes and be in exchange with your producers, and the long period of development. And then, of course, it's still not so attractive as fast fashion is, and every season a different code. Sustainable production. There's loads of things you can do, and I can only encourage all designers to go and speak to your producers. We had here a student in Reutlingen. She was doing, at our faculty, she was doing fibers from bioplastic. She was using milk fibers. And she said, if I'm using a fiber like this, I want to have a new, completely zero waste development of clothes. And she developed different systems together with the scientist of the bioplastic people. And she started, here you see a picture how she's wrapping a fiber and then putting it in the baker. But she also did, I don't know if you all know this, chocolate Christmas Santa Claus. She used a similar thing for a t-shirt shape. She modeled a t-shirt shape and then with vacuum sucked the fiber against the shape, and then she had a t-shirt. And just to go back, I showed you this before. This is the t-shirt she's been doing. Of course, it's not a soft, perfect, wearable t-shirt yet, but it gave the people from our faculty too the idea to develop it further. So we are on the way to have a zero-waste t-shirt from a bioplastic fiber, which is used without sewing, which is made without sewing, without cutting, and it's completely zero waste. Similar like knitting, really. By the way, knitting is, of course, the perfect zero-waste technique. Yeah, what else are we doing? We're trying to do digital prototyping, and then I have to pay the rent here to Cloth 3D. We're using a lot of Cloth 3D. Are you familiar with Pumping Fist again, if you wake up? Are you familiar with Cloth 3D? Yeah, some of you are. I think we have a big potential here also to work, reduce waste and work a bit better with prototyping on the avatar. You can see here from the Swedish company HAMK. For the exhibition, I told you, the useless exhibition, where you can see the sustainable design strategies, we worked with HAMK together. And in the exhibition, we have this jumper you see in here on the right side here. The red jumper is in the exhibition, and you can download the pattern, which is wrapped digitally around an avatar. So the first fittings, all the fittings are not used with physical fabric or calico like we do as fashion designers or tailors. So the fitting is done digitally. And by now in our university, we're having customized and personalized avatars where we can do fittings up to the penultimate state digitally. And then, of course, that makes it mass producible. So we can try out sustainable techniques first on the dummy, on the avatar. For example, you see here on the left-hand side a pair of trousers we developed for the police of Lower Saxony, and that's what I mean. We didn't need to send it to China for fittings. We didn't need any prototyping, and we didn't waste any fabric. We went through 5 to 10 digital prototypes and had the first prototype nearly in a perfect fit. So the police didn't know. So they're wearing the trousers, and they didn't know that we made the process more sustainable. Upcycling, we spoke about it. Upcycling also is quite a difficult issue for designers. Here I show you some examples of pre-consumer waste. Pre-consumer waste is a bit easier. What does it mean, pre-consumer waste? That means you receive goods which are not worn yet, and they're still not needed. Things, wrong productions, maybe wrong colors, leftover stock, whatsoever. And for us as fashion designers, it's better to work with pre-consumer waste, or easier, because you have a number of things. So you probably have, like here, in this case, we had 1,000 of the yellow security jackets, and they were produced wrong. So we could use them, and once we had found something to design, we could make 1,500 bags. And this is, I show you this example not to show you what we're doing upcycling-wise. I show you this of the change of attitude designers must go through. Because we didn't say, oh, we want to design a nice rucksack from a yellow fabric. We said, what is your leftover? And then found out what we can make of it. And of course, the challenge here in this project, where we did school uniform rucksacks for first graders to go to school with, the challenge was every designer who made a design was not allowed to leave more leftovers than one fistful of leftovers. And upcycling post-consumer waste is also even more difficult, because you see here, once you do it with second-hand and vintage clothes, as you see here, then you have individual pieces, couture-like. For me, there's no difference between upcycled vintage and couture, because it needs the same amount of time and craft. But if you make it work for mass production, you got to work a long time on the prototyping, the same as with zero waste. The development of the product takes a long time, and then you must make sure that the product is a good product. Here you see also in the 70s in Germany, the police motorbikers, they had these uniforms for motorbiking, overalls. We had a couple of hundred as a gift, and we made bags and rucksacks. Again, always one designer had to make 2 accessories from one jumpsuit, and there was supposed to be no leftovers, and we made it as a social entrepreneurship. The factory who made it was a social institution. They worked with disabled people, and they produced about 500 pieces. And then, of course, people still say upcycling is not mass producible, but we made 500 pieces and offered them over the police website, and they were sold out in one afternoon. So, of course, it doesn't change much, but it's a first step. And you see here on the one side a mass-produced dress, which is made from a synthesis of zero waste and upcycling. We gave the company who's sourcing the used clothes for us, we gave them the order to give us about 50 shirts, men's shirts, all the same size, and a piece of scarf, and we made these dresses, mass-produced, cut. So, of course, the shirts had different colors. Every dress is different from color-wise, but the same size and the same cut. We made it to a series of 30 pieces. Well, it's peanuts, but it's the idea. Okay, now we're collecting the marathon shirts from 30 years of marathon runs in Hannover, and we make something for the police with it. Maybe when I'm here next year, I show you what it is. Sorry, if I missed the point. Of course, I'm showing you this, that as a designer, you've got to look at the whole process and the end of life of a textile product, because the marathon shirts are crap. They're really crap, and people buy them once and throw them away. So we want to make something really, really fantastic from it. The other thing we're working at is consumer engagement and sustainable service. As we know now, the cleaning and the care of textile product takes up a lot of time and energy. So we're looking for concepts here, and also we're using the police as an example, because we have corporate collection, corporate washing, and we can learn how to wash and treat and clean things better. And we made an exhibition where we challenged the care labels. We wanted to find out, do people really look at the care label? We produced about 10 t-shirts, all with different prints. And we wanted to find out about the attitude-behavior gap, because in our research project from the BMBF, from the ministry, we had a research done with 2,000 people in Germany, and asked them if a few things towards their behavior. And we learned that they're all like perfect, they all wear second hand, they all where natural fibers, they really look at certificates, they're like fantastic customers. And then we had the figures from Clean Clothes campaign of the same year with the same people, and we found out that the sale figure in fast fashion were rising. At the same time, people were telling us they're behaving really good. So we have the attitude behavior gap again, where people say one thing and do another. So we made this a visible example, and we printed a lot of stuff on the t-shirts, and people really, we sold the bad t-shirts the same as the good ones. Some of them say how much fabric they used, how bad they are produced. Some of them said how good they are produced. And people, they liked the writing, but they didn't read it, and they bought the same of the bad ones as the good ones. However, this t-shirt we made as a zero waste pattern, which is using 10% less than the ordinary white t-shirt bought in Germany. We bought t-shirts from Boss, H&M, from like all different brands in Germany, white classic t-shirts, and we worked 1.5 years on another pattern, which saves a lot of the fabric, 10%. And then people said, yeah, okay, 10%, that's again a downside of zero waste, because the fabric is so cheap. When people buy t-shirts in India or wherever, the fabric is so cheap that they cut the things out and throw the rest away. We reduced the waste by 10%, and that is 40 full container trains going through Germany in 1 year. So just to save the rest of white t-shirts produced, which are sold in Germany in 1 year, during 1 year, will reduce textile production for 40 container trains. Caring and repairing, we spoke a bit about this already. For us, it's interesting to use experiences when we're sorting used textiles, and therefore we need access to this. You cannot design clothes without having access to waste and to the sorting places for used textiles. Now, with working for the police in Germany, we find out why people are throwing clothes away. Not always because they think they're ugly or they need something new. Sometimes also because they have areas where they show signs of wear and tear. And of course, when you're a designer, you need to look at this end again to find out where you can better your designs. And it's important to have collective care for this, because we don't know, because everybody's washing their things individually. We don't know what happens. Also, at the same time, we're working on concepts for mending and repair, which are innovative. Of course, we know swapping clothes, changing, and so on, but also learning again to repair and to mend. We have textile design with people in schools. They learn textile design. What for? I promote they should learn knitting and textile repair instead. Carrying instructions is a big subject. We won't get into this. We know that people are not reading it. In our exhibition, we give children buttons and let them put into glasses where, at least that they know the country where the clothes come from originally. And we found out that they don't even know where the care label is, so they don't know how to work with their clothes. So how can we then, knowing all this, be still positive and transform society towards sustainability, and how can we have an impact as designers? And this under slow fashion criteria, believing that we have to slow down and use less. We have to look at the whole textile product life cycle. We cannot just look at the design process only. And we need an integrated understanding of design. Holistic is maybe the word we heard before, but we need a specialization at the same time. There's no use to just design and not know about technical problems. We need to know about quality and appreciate quality, and we have to work with consumers and make them aware of the stories the textile culture tells. And we can only work if the whole system works with us. We need to transform. We need to transform all areas of the textile product life cycle and the consumer attitude. And the keywords here, transparency, exchange, and governmental support. Of course, we can change through change of attitude, but we need rules and laws as well, because nobody is paying for the end of the textile chain at the moment, because it's been so easy to throw everything away. If you have any questions, slow fashion against waste and ugly clothes. Thank you very much. Dankeschön.
Thank you, Martina. So we still have some time for questions, so please.
So hello, nice to meet you, amazing presentation. I have a question. What can I do as a consumer? Because you talk more of the designer way, but you a little bit scared me with my clothes, which I put in the containers, is burnt. So what can I do with as a customer?
Well, the ideal clothes are the ones you don't buy. I know coming from the slow fashion department, it's very difficult. You have to use less. That's why we're called useless. And once you don't use clothes anymore, of course it's better to put your clothes in the bin, because some of them can be saved. But if you label them right, it helps as well. Some people put dead dogs into the bin, in the collection bin, I mean. But if you wash your clothes, if you label them, and if you say bought then, and it's pure wool, it helps at the other end, because it's a very difficult step to sort all the things and then even pull the fibers together. In the future, it will be better because fibers could be tagged. But if you want to avoid this, give it to somebody else. Give it to your local dealer. Give it to your local designer. The local designer can help you to make something else of it.
Any more questions?
I have quite a lot of voice, so it's fine.
Okay.
So how do you feel like about social media? Is it media influence
Yeah.
a lot on the consuming? Like the designers maybe come up with more practical designs to
Yeah, two things. Of course, social media has a big impact, and you've got to follow the right people. It's like quality. You have to choose the right material. You have to choose to follow the right people, because there's social media people who promote every day 10 different outfits, but there's also social media sites who have for 3 years the same outfit in different situations. And I can only say, enjoy life and laugh and live and dance a bit more than buy. Don't buy. Just don't. Sorry, Vivienne Westwood, I forgot to talk about it. Of course, our exhibition is under the umbrella and patronage of Vivienne Westwood, and you can only quote her here. Buy less, choose well, make it last. I mean, she said it perfectly. And social media the same. Don't follow the wrong people. There's brilliant people out there.
I think also what he asked about, no thank you.
Okay.
About what we can do as customers, we need to be what kind of clothes we buy. Fast fashion clothes for is terrible. How they are made.
Yeah, you see, I'm a designer and I don't even know most of it. And that's why I avoid to speak about this, the use of water and all this. Yes, we know all that, but what can we do? We're living in a capitalistic system, and there's this big obstacle hindering the elephant to go the right way, as we just learned. Well, we got to have like little tricks and things, and one of the things is to learn about cotton. Cotton is very important because once if you buy a vintage denim raw jeans, you can wear it into shape and you can wear it like 10 years. I've got a pair of a Japanese jeans from the 90s and I'm still wearing it. But if you recycle the cotton of denim, it's probably not a better product afterwards. It only makes sense to recycle something or upcycle when it's a better product after. And the brands who are now collecting jeans, I don't know if H&M is doing it, to be honest with you, I've never put a step into an H&M so far. Maybe they're taking the fiber apart, making something new, but the product is not necessarily better. So better is you buy a raw, untreated denim and you wear it for the rest of your life and it will always look good. And what's really behind your question is, yes, customers, clients, users, designers, and distributors and producers must work together and network to learn from each other. I don't know, there's there and there.
Yes, so which one controls the fashion trends? Is it the consumers or fashion designers?
Yeah, that's a really difficult question. I'm just a fashion designer, but I can tell you that it's all written in the book already. The minute you step out there and you like the color blue, 2 years before, everybody has decided to put the color blue out there. And the system only works once you can calculate it. If you calculate what people buy in 2 years from now, you control them, and therefore trends are pretty useless. No? Because you should follow your own instinct and not buy the colors which are in stock. But once you're part of the system, you buy the colors and the material you see in the shops. I think trends are absolutely useless, and it's about time that people start to behave crazy and wild and laugh and dance and not follow trends, because everybody looks good in a certain way. You don't need to follow this. And then, of course, you're not so calculable for the industry.
Thank you for your lecture. Actually, it was very interesting, and I have a question. Usually fashion is associated with women, and the society expected a certain way women to behave and look. So what do you do in this project that you mentioned, or if you do something, to cope with all kinds of stereotypes based on the gender?
Yeah, the gender thing is just, sorry, I don't mean this discriminating, but the gender thing is just a tiny subject of this, because we're over that. Of course, you can minimalize your wardrobe by making clothes which fits women and men, but I think you can be one day this and one day the other, because fashion gives you this kind of freedom, and people shouldn't be so fixed, don't follow trends and rules. Wear what you like, and we had this trend of gender neutral or non-binary clothes for a couple of years now, and I think maybe it's time that we have really feminine clothes again, maybe worn by men, I don't know, but I think fashion is like, it's an adventure and an experience, and you can express yourself by just go through second-hand clothes and wear an outfit, a different outfit every day. We have at the university, we have a Bad Taste Day. I think I really should recommend this to you. Bad Taste Day is really brilliant because everybody is challenged to put on his worst look. And then you all come in and it's a big laugh, and don't treat it as an ironic tool. Take it really seriously. Wear something you really think you're ugliest, and you will experience a whole new life experience. And I was always following it as well. And I went to a cafe in the university, and the lady over there, who's very friendly with me, she said, "Oh, Miss Glomb, I never know what you're doing there in the fashion department, but you look so wonderful today." And I really like this. And I looked like somebody from Dallas, with bright blue shoulders and kind of makeup and stuff. Try this here. Start the Bad Taste Day. I mean, there's Fashion Revolution Day in April coming, so maybe it's a good day to challenge yourself to Bad Taste Day.
And how do you want to influence society and young people on social networks? Because I don't want to be on my social profile in every post in the same clothes. So I feel the pressure of this Instagrams and Facebooks and so.
Thank you for being so honest. I think that's great. That's the first step towards sustainability and consumer behavior. Just lend some clothes, just borrow them, make experiments, just swap. I mean, make bad taste day on your social media account. No, but thank you for being so honest. It is difficult sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's see. Today I have learned the term useless. It means that we should save more, and maybe you ask the customer to buy less, but from the size, from the viewpoint of the industry, so if the consumer buy less, it means that you may lose some more profit. So I since when I was young, I have come up with an idea, because the first time I saw the hologram, that you may know the hologram, yeah, and maybe in the future, if we work with the technician or the technology have developed enough for you to like have a device, like you wear a necklace or a bracelet on your wrist, and then it's like and you download your custom onto the bracelet, and you just hit the button on the bracelet, and the custom appear like it's not from the textile, but it's like you show in there
Digital.
on the screen, yeah, like a projector. So it's going to save first. You don't need to waste the washing powder, yeah, and like you don't need to waste the textile. You don't need to care about the recycling things. So what do you think about this? Is that maybe possible, or is that some kind of ridiculous thing ever?
A very good and difficult question and a good comment. There will be loads of various things. I think we will wear digital clothes. I think we do have this already, that you can buy clothes on the internet which are virtual clothes, and they're limited, so they're really like the Gucci handbag of the future. We also will have mass-produced clothes, like our underwear will be zero waste, like I told you about the police. Like they are wearing sustainable clothes and they don't even know that they're better. So we have clothes we wear analog, we have clothes we wear in the virtual world, we have various things. I just want to encourage you to make good decisions and look out for quality in all areas, in the virtual area, in the analog area, and even if you wear your socks, if you buy your socks, inform yourself, exchange with people and make the right decision. It doesn't matter if it's analog or digital. Buy less, choose well, even in the virtual world. And again, this is touching again the subject of the border between cultural and natural, and also enjoy a bit of dirt. It doesn't matter, you don't need to wash your clothes all the time, and you don't need to be separate from the natural world. Sometimes it's nice to be dirty and not have the border between you and nature, and the border between your analog self and your virtual self. I think it's good to mix things, but always know where you are and be aware that you learn a lot about quality.
First off, very, very amazing lecture. Seeing what you told us, I assume you are going to make this the new mainstream. Am I wrong?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Not me. All of us have to make this. We got to do something. It can't go on like this. That's clear. And it's better to start looking at your own wardrobe. And of course, the political system will hinder us doing this, because we are supposed to buy always new things. I mean, you watch in Germany, you watch TV. Even the poor people in German TV series, they have brilliant kitchen and fashionable clothes, but they're ugly clothes. That's why my lecture is called Ugly Clothes. They're ugly because they're all the same, and they're bought in the shop where you have 20 the same looking. Be an individual and do whatever you like, and don't buy this 20 jumpers which are all the same. And the greenwashing of sustainability is like, oh, it's such a good jumper, it's made from a perfect material, and it's done zero waste, so I might as well have 3. No, don't. Just one and swap it. So if some of us will start to do this, and of course here in an educational environment, it's also important to make an effort. I don't know how it's in Finland, but in Germany, in schools, the children, the kids, they don't learn knitting, repairing, anything anymore. They don't even know how textiles feel, and this is, I think, part of the reason we are so there is a border between us and the natural urge also to make your own clothes. I think everybody has this, even if it's deep down. You have the urge to make something. DIY is one of the strategies I didn't talk about today, but DIY is also a very important strategy. And for me to be here today is through punk and DIY, because I come from a very, very difficult background, but through the power DIY and punk gave me, I went into the fashion design, and I still work as I did 30 years ago with second-hand clothes.
So, thank you very much, Martina. I'm happy that you showed us how important role us designers and us consumers have in being responsible. Now we are going to have the lunch break, and after the lunch we will have more lectures. We will divide the auditorium in 2 parts because we have parallel lectures after the lunch, and the lectures will go on at 1 o'clock. See you then.